are a tribe. To join requires a belief in participatory democracy. It requires giving to every other human being every right you claim for yourself. It's knowing that the ills of democracy are cured by more democracy. My country has been the hope and the guiding light of the world. We have carved continents in half. We have defeated great enemies without and greater ones within. Far from perfect, yes. But how far we have come and how much farther we will go. My country has gone to the moon and we will reach the stars. I've watched this piece a time or two since the 2016 election. I'm still somewhat gratified that Hillary won the popular vote by some 3 million, and somewhat outraged that for the third time in our republic's history, the legitimate voice of the people was muted by a political apparatus put in place in the 18th century by conservative northern bankers and southern slave owners to pervert any democratic outcome they found not in their favor. Now, as the midterms near, some statistics. In a nationwide poll, the Pew Research Foundation found that 51% of Republicans felt that Donald Trump brought a high moral standard to the White House. The Republican right has always claimed the moral high ground over others, boasting of their patriotism and claiming that their conservative Christian values represented all that was decent in this nation. But by their continued support of Mr. Trump, they have betrayed their lack of principles, exposed their religious posturing as a sham, and inflicted a grievous wound on the country they claim to have won. By their refusal to compromise, by their disdain for those whose ideas, dreams, and complexions differ from their own, the Republican right have chosen the golden calf in a red necktie. In a survey of the nation's voters conducted by a major university, 49% admitted to believing that Donald Trump was a racist. This is Donald Trump, who in 1989 took out ads in New York newspapers demanding that the death penalty be reinstated for the 5 Black and Latino teenagers who were accused of raping a white woman in Central Park. This is Donald Trump, who in 2016, 3 decades after the 5 teenagers were exonerated by DNA evidence, continued to maintain his belief in their guilt. This is Donald Trump, who accused Mexican immigrants of being drug-dealing rapists, referred to a Hispanic Miss Universe contestant as Miss Housekeeping, and who spoke well of the white supremacists who marched in Charlottesville, describing them as some fine people. 49% of Americans believe Donald Trump is a racist. That's like 49% of Americans believing Ronald McDonald is a clown. Now, to more disturbing statistics. According to the National Census Bureau, of the 245 million Americans eligible to vote in the 2016 election, only 136 million, barely over half, actually did. Again, according to the Pew Research Foundation, of the world's 32 democracies, the United States ranks 26th in voter turnout. Belgium, Sweden, and Denmark are at the top. We come in after Korea and Mexico, right after Estonia. Look on the bright side, at least we beat out Turkey. Some justify their apathy with the argument, there is no difference between the two political parties. This is a favorite excuse of the Gen Xers and the millennials, who, by the way, have the worst voting record of any generational bloc. Now, yes, there are times when the two parties seem joined at the hip. But the devil is in the details. For example, the United Nations is committed to women's health issues around the world. This involves nutrition, AIDS, prenatal care, violence against women, genital mutilations, and family planning, which can involve birth control and, of course, pregnancy termination or abortion. Now, when a Democratic administration is in office, this is not an issue. But when there is a Republican in the White House, as a bone to their pro-life supporters, almost immediately all funding is stopped to the UN or World Health Organization if they offer any ITOP procedure that results in the termination of pregnancy. Over the years, this has gone back and forth. Democratic administrations reinstating the funding, Republican administrations stopping it. On April 4th, 2017, the Trump administration announced it was withdrawing $32 million from the UN for offering pregnancy terminations in their dealings with the women of the Third World. Now, this on-again, off-again funding business may seem insignificant to you. But this one action on Donald Trump's part means that millions of women in the world's poorest countries will be denied proper hospitals and medical professionals. And as a result, 45,000 will die needlessly. Ask them if there's a difference between the two parties. The second reason given by those who don't participate in the national elections is, why bother? My vote won't matter. An answer comparable to, why pull the ripcord? My chute won't open. When you step into a polling booth, you are voting for more than a presidential candidate. You're voting for senators, congresspersons, bonds, bill issues, propositions. You may not want to choose between the lesser of two evils. Well, how about decriminalization of marijuana laws, prison reforms, helmet laws, gun control, keeping parks open at night, body cameras on police? You may be unsure of which candidate to vote for. But please, vote for your own self-interest. Your vote is also a jump on the national Richter scale, showing to both parties the tremors beneath the American landscape. On gay marriage, do you think the powers to be suddenly realized that the gays were entitled to the same rights as the rest of us? No. They saw the cultural swing. They didn't see the handwriting on the wall. They saw it in the polling booth. Yes, one vote does about as much good as throwing a pebble at a brick wall. But you throw 37 million pebbles at that same wall, and you end up with a rubble pile of bricks. Every vote matters. Lower voter turnout in 2016, especially among Black and Hispanics, allowed Donald Trump to win Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, Michigan, and Wisconsin. In 2012, Obama won Michigan by 350,000 votes. Trump won it by 10,000. In 2012, Romney won 1,409,000 votes in Wisconsin, and still Obama took the state. In 2016, Trump got roughly the same number of votes. But because of low voter turnout, that was enough for him to beat Hillary by 30,000 votes. The number of Latino Americans who didn't vote in the 2016 election outnumbered those who did. And here's a poke in the eye for La Raza. The number of Latino Americans who have participated in elections have been outnumbered by those who didn't in every election since 1996. You want equal rights? Then use your rights and vote. In 2016, the number of Black voters hit a 20-year low. You say you're tired of being second-class citizens? Well, act like first-class citizens and vote. In our long history, we have faced witch hunts, sunshine patriots, know-nothing, secessionists, copperheads, isolationists, American firsters, McCarthyism, Falwellism, and now the nation is faced with Trumpism. It is somewhat predictable that the most hate-filled and most ignorant among us found a messiah in Trump. A little man who, like a funhouse mirror, can warp and manipulate his own failures, like theirs, into the deception of empowerment by distorting the reflection of enfeeblement. He has convinced his followers that they can obtain the American dream by making it unattainable to others, that the dream of America is no longer expressed in I can, but in they can't. What many Trump supporters didn't understand, it wasn't their choice of candidate that made them deplorable. It was their claim that hating other Americans was patriotic. But it wasn't those deluded masses who put Mr. Trump in the White House. Mr. Trump didn't win the White House because of those who voted for him. He won because of those who didn't vote at all. Politics, whether you like it or not, are only slightly less important than your heartbeat. And the only time somebody's vote doesn't matter is when they don't bother to cast it. Donald Trump may be the greatest threat this nation has ever faced. He hides behind his facade of fake news. He claims to drain the swamp when he is that swamp. He says he's building a wall, when in fact he's building a tomb. Whether that tomb is his own or this country's depends upon one vote. Yours. Please vote. Thank you.